Hello everyone, Weather Jamaica here. Welcome to this updated video on the weather across Jamaica and the rest of the Caribbean. It is Saturday evening, December 2, 2023. Now before we jump into it, please ensure that you guys like the video, share it, subscribe and tap notification bell so that you'll be notified every time I post a brand new video. Feel free to leave a comment down in the comment section letting me know what the dad's been like in your year recently. Also feel free to ask any weather related question that you might have about the future of the weather in your specific area. Alright, so let us take a look at a tweet from Ben Noel. He's one of the persons on Twitter that if you're not following them, you need to follow right now. He knows a lot about weather. He's actually a meteorologist at the National Institute of Water and Atmospheric Research. And he's made a post recently, well, not really recently, it was posted on November 11th, and he usually makes these maps showing the Euro model plus the UK Met in terms of the rainfall that's expected over the next couple of months. And for this map that he posted, it is valid for December 2023 to around February 2024. And the thing about these maps, I remember him posting similar maps in the past, even in the year 2020, and he posted the long range forecast like in January for the month of August through to November, and these forecast maps verified. So when it comes to the long range forecast, he's one of the persons who is usually right in terms of what is forecasted. And what he posted in his tweet is that global precipitation patterns will be strongly influenced by the peak of El Nino in the months ahead. For some countries, dryness and drought, represented by the browns, will be a concern, while others have a risk for extreme precipitation, represented by the green. And if we take a look closer at this map, and we're going to be focusing on the area that Jamaica is located, we can see some greens. Look at the eastern United States in those darker shades of greens, the northern portion of the North Atlantic spilling down into portions of the northern Caribbean. Look at that area around Jamaica, the Cayman Islands, Cuba, Hispaniola. We're seeing more and more of greens that represent rainfall, and this is valid for the time period from December 2023 to February 2024. And the thing is, it is conflicting considering that this time period is the dry season across Jamaica, but Ben Noel is a credible source of such information. So to see him making a post like this predicting above normal precipitation for the next 3 months is quite interesting. So we'll see exactly what unfolds with this tweet. Hopefully you guys remember this tweet by the time we get to the beginning of March. Either way, we can also see that he made another post, actually made it on November 30. He stated, by late December, convective forcing, represented by the greens, is expected to favor phases 8 through to 1, and that phases represent the Atlantic in general. It states here, historically, these phases have been associated with colder than average conditions in the eastern US during December through to January. And some of these greens can also be representative of some amount of rainfall that's expected. So we're going to be going out in time with this tweet. So this time period, as we know, the browns represent drier than average conditions. So this is from December 1 to December 8. That's what's expected for that time period. Skipping ahead, so about December 8 to December 15. Still some amount of browns that represent below average rainfall across the Atlantic in general. Starting to see some of these greens and blues that represent rainfall starting to spill into the central and eastern Pacific, maybe even the Gulf of Mexico. Skipping ahead now to about December 15 through to December 22. Look at what we see. More in the way of blues that represent a rising air. So we can see the key at the bottom. Rising air, not necessarily rainfall, but rising air. And we know that rising air has to do with, the building up of clouds as well as resulting in showers and so on. And we have sinking air that is usually the drier side. So we can see from December 15 to the 22, that's what's expected. Then one last map from December 22 to December 30th. This is what's expected More in lieu of those blues that represent rising air across the Atlantic. Maybe some browns in the south and eastern Caribbean. So we'll see exactly what unfolds with this tweet. It's very interesting when Ben No makes tweets like these. So we just have to stay, updated with the weather to see exactly what unfolds. Very interesting times ahead. Alright, so let's just take a look at the surface map of the Atlantic for this evening. We can still see that cold front that stretches all the way from northern sections of North Atlantic, all the way down to the north of the eastern Caribbean, and that trough that's induced to the north of Puerto Rico and Hispaniola. We can also see on the visible satellite images what we just saw on the surface map. The clouds that represent that cold front stretching all the way down, which has induced that trough to the north of the eastern Caribbean. You can also see a lot of clouds associated with another cold front, brings some amount of overcast sky showers and thunderstorms to the waters of the Gulf of Mexico, as well as the southern and eastern United States. You can also see a fast flow of low-level clouds pushing from east to west across the eastern to the central and western Caribbean. And we know for a fact some of these low level clouds have some amount of isolated showers within them. You even have one speck of that cloud coming into sections of St. Thomas during the afternoon hours, which brought some amount of isolated showers. Alright, so we'll be talking more about the weather across the Caribbean later on. Let us focus our attention on the prediction that was made in yesterday's video about the weather across Jamaica for today, Saturday. If we remember yesterday's video, remember that the morning was forecast to bring some amount of maybe isolated showers to sections of St. Thomas or maybe the waters to the south of St. Thomas. But the rest of the day was expected to be fairly sunny. Maybe we had some blues that represent some rainfall across inland areas of some central and western parishes for the prediction. But what ended up happening, we didn't have that at all. We had something different, more like an opposite. Either way, when it comes to eastern parishes, we're talking about those parishes in the county of Surrey. Central parishes, we're talking about those parishes in the county of Middlesex. Western parishes, we're talking about those parishes in the county of Cornwall. And what ended up happening? Instead of the morning, where the isolated rainfall is expected for eastern Jamaica, we had it in the afternoon. So a post was made on our Twitter page highlighting the visible satellite images showing some amount of clouds coming in from the east, bringing some overcast skies and isolated showers to sections of some eastern parishes. We did have some clouds across sections of inland areas of some central parishes and western Jamaica, but not much in the way of rainfall was across those spots. Maybe some drizzle or dew, or whatever the case may be, across the west. But it was St. Thomas that took the brunt of the rainfall for today, even although it was more in the way of some isolated showers. And keep in mind that this post was made on our Twitter page, Facebook, TikTok, and Instagram page. So, if you have one of those social media platforms, please ensure that you follow us there. And if we take a look at the visible satellite images of the Jamaica area before the sun went down, we can see those clouds that came in from the east. Maybe some of those clouds might have brought in some amount of isolated showers to sections of eastern Portland, sections of Westmoreland Grill as well. And if we take a look at the latest infrared satellite images, we don't have much taking place right now. Just those low level patches of clouds as represented by those grays that might have gotten into portions of St. Catherine, Clarendon, and even sections of Manchester. Who knows? Maybe bringing some amount of isolated shores to those spots as well. Taking a look at the latest Cuban Doppler radar images, we don't see much happening across the Jamaica area at all for this time period. Only that speck of green that represents rainfall to the south of St. Catherine, pushing into the south of Clarendon. Taking a look at the accumulated precipitation from the Caribbean Institute for Meteorology and Hydrology website, we saw that we didn't have much in the way of rainfall at all. Only those spots that we just saw the visible satellite images showing clouds, so inland areas of some central parishes, maybe sections of western Jamaica, as well as sections of eastern Jamaica, just like what we saw in the afternoon hours. Taking a look at the temperatures right now, we can see that we have 27 degrees Celsius in Montego Bay, 26 degrees Celsius in Kingston, and by about 3 a.m. on Sunday, the temperature should dip down to about 25 degrees Celsius in Montego Bay, 21 degrees Celsius in Kingston. Taking a look at the temperature forecast for tomorrow, this map from the GFS is showing 18 on Sunday. When we calculate that, that's actually 1 p.m. Jamaica time. And we do see Jamaica right here embedded in some yellows and some slight oranges that represent 1 to 2 degrees Celsius above normal temperatures. And we know the normal temperatures for the month of December is about 87 degrees Fahrenheit. When we take a look at the thermometer, 87 degrees Fahrenheit is about the same as 30 degrees Celsius. So we should be receiving anywhere from 30 to 32 degrees Celsius for Jamaica's temperature on Sunday. Taking a look at the dry air map, we can see that the dry air is represented by this key at the bottom. So yellows, oranges, reds, and whites within those reds. And for right now into tomorrow, we have some dry air, some yellows and some slight oranges still surrounding the island of Jamaica, which is definitely limiting the amount of rainfall that we've been receiving. Taking a look at the Saharan dust forecast, this map is valid for 2 p.m. on Sunday, and we can see that majority of the Caribbean, including Jamaica, should be in the clear. We don't have those browns that we see across Africa and the eastern main development region that represent the Saharan dust. Taking a look at the wave forecast for Sunday, we do see that both the Euro and the GFS models have a lot of blues that are surrounding the island. I know these blues are representative of some 1 to 1.5 or even close to 2 meter wave heights, as we can see by the key on the bottom right. And that's because the winds are not going to be that strong at all. The north coast seems to be getting anywhere from 5 to 10 knots, as we can see by those blues and the key on the bottom right, while the south coast and east coast are expected to receive those greens that represent anywhere from 15 to 20 knot winds. And as it relates to the rainfall forecast, we do see that for both the Euro and the GFS, we have more whites than anything else that represent little to no rainfall for Sunday. Look at this time period. This is 6 p.m. And we see some blues that represent rainfall off the west coast of Jamaica. But we have some contrast. The GFS is showing blues that represent rainfall on the land across western Jamaica as well as across sections of eastern Jamaica as well. So it's gonna be interesting to see exactly what unfolds. Either way, for the most part, there is not much in the way of rainfall, as we can see by both the Euro and the GFS's accumulated precipitation forecast. We see more in the way of whites and grays than anything else. The dry season is here, so it's very much expected. We're in the month of December. From December to April, it's understandable that we're going to be receiving less rainfall, which is why this tweet from Ben Knoll is so shocking. It's so interesting to see what he's forecasting for December through to February 2024 with all of those greens that represent rainfall across the area surrounding Jamaica. So it's gonna be very interesting. Who knows? Maybe December is dry, or maybe December later on in December is wet. Then January and February are wet. We shall see exactly what unfolds with that. Alright, so that's it for the forecast across Jamaica. Let us focus our attention on the rest of the Caribbean. So we can still see that we have a lot of low-level clouds pushing from east to west across the eastern Caribbean. Some of these clouds bring some thunderstorm activity to sections of Trinidad and Tobago, the northeastern portion of Venezuela. We also see some rainfall right there across sections of southern Colombia. Not much in the way of rainfall across sections of Venezuela, the ABC Islands, or Central America at this time. Just some isolated pockets of rainfall going into sections of Nicaragua and Honduras. Taking a look at the Doppler radar images of the northeastern Caribbean, we can see, but we have some greens that represent rainfall right now that represent light to moderate rainfall. Not much across Puerto Rico, Dominican Republic, US, or British Virgin Islands, St. Martin or St. Kitts right now. But maybe some hit or miss showers later on tonight for sections of Antigua and Barbuda. We're currently experiencing rainfall, as we can see, surrounding the island of Guadeloupe, where we had an earthquake recently. So hopefully they're taking the necessary precautions, drop cover, hold, and who knows, maybe they might get affected by another one soon, if not aftershocks. We can see some greens that represent rainfall across Barbados, Dominica, sorry, to the east of there, the waters to the east of and west of Martinique, as well as St. Lucia. As relates to the Barbados radar, we do see a lot of this rainfall as well. So we don't have to have tropical waves to bring rainfall. Have a lot of low-level clouds moving in that easterly flow of wind. So we see all of that blue and green that represent some rainfall, some isolated pockets of rainfall coming into sections of Martinique, St. Lucia, St. Vincent and the Grenadines, Grenada, sections of Trinidad, especially eastern Trinidad, and even sections of Tobago as well. And there's definitely more to come tonight into tomorrow. Taking a look at the wider view of Doppler radar images, we can see some of that rainfall to the north of the ABC Islands, some of this rainfall coming into sections of the Yucatan Peninsula as well. Taking a look at the temperature forecast, this map from the GFS is valid for 18th on Sunday. When we calculate that, that's 1 p.m. on Sunday. And we do see that for the most part, majority of the Eastern Caribbean should be receiving average temperatures. As you can see, those grays, the gray on the key on the right represent average temperatures. The slight yellows represent at least 1 degree Celsius above normal temperatures, and that's what's being forecast for the northeastern Caribbean. Majority of the greater Antilles up to 2 to 3 degrees Celsius above normal temperatures. Sections of the Gulf of Mexico, Central America, and the eastern United States, even up to 5 to 6 or even 7 degrees Celsius above normal temperatures for those spots. As it relates to the Saharan dust forecast, majority of the Caribbean should be in the clear for 2 p.m. on Sunday, with all of the dust that represents the Sahara Desert, what's coming off of the Sahara Desert across Africa and the eastern main development region. Taking a look at the wave forecast, we can see anywhere from 0.5 for meter to at least 2 meter wave heights stretching from the Gulf of Mexico into the Caribbean. More in the way of those 2 meter wave heights or more to the waters to the south of Jamaica, as represented by those purples. Definitely, because the winds are going to be strongest right there to the south of Jamaica, where we have those yellows that represent up to 25 knot winds, as we can see by the key on the bottom right. While elsewhere, we should be having more in the way of blues and greens that represent anywhere from 5 to at least 20 knot winds, and we can see that for the most part across the Caribbean, the wind should be coming in from the east. As it relates to the rainfall forecast, now the keys on the right are showing the rainfall represented by those greens, yellows, oranges, and even some red. And we do see that rainfall being predicted for sections of the Bahamas, the northeastern Dominican Republic, and we're looking for consensus on both of these maps from the Euro and the GFS. Keep in mind that both of these maps are showing all the rainfall that's expected from now up until 10 p.m. on Sunday. Not saying that it's going to be raining from now all the way up until then, but if there's going to be rainfall within the next 24 hours, these are the areas that are going to be experiencing it. So sections of the Leeward Islands, maybe sections of Guadeloupe, which is already getting rainfall, Dominica, Martinique, St. Lucia, St. Vincent and the Grenadines, Barbados, sections of Trinidad. We can also see some rainfall in the forecast for sections of coastal areas of Guyana, northeastern Venezuela, sections of western Colombia, eastern Panama, sections of northwest Panama, eastern Costa Rica, eastern Nicaragua, eastern Honduras, eastern Belize, sections of the eastern portion of the Yucatan Peninsula and the northern Yucatan Peninsula as well. I know that when both maps are showing something similar like this, the chances of it actually happening are much higher. Alright, so that's it for today. Thanks for watching.